Charles, I hope our viewers are on their toes this morning because it's another early one. How are you doing in an undisclosed international location that looks like a barn? What's going on in the background there?
No, it's actually, I'm in a very nice hotel in Southeast Asia in a port city that is quite wonderful, frankly. And I'm on the verge of returning to what's left of the United States of America. And I really appreciate your adjusting your time schedule to
No
make it
problem.
possible for me to do this. I'll be traveling, for quite a bit of the time, the next 2 days to get back. Um, but to the art department, I mean, that poster is great, and I really have to wonder. There are a series of stories now coming out where I think what's going on is that the varying people who are vying to succeed Joe Biden within the Democratic Party are alternatively savaging Biden, savaging his people, and savaging one another in an effort to be the least dirty shirt in the laundry when it comes time in Chicago, which is going to be one hell of a shit show, the Democrat National Convention in Chicago,
Yeah.
to replace this bumbling fool. But again, I don't, I mean, I have no formal trading in media, and I certainly was never in politics and never want to go into politics. But I had suspected that the way this game is played is that there are a lot of media outlets competing for time with the president and the cabinet. And people like Anita Dunn, who's in Valerie Jarrett's role for Biden, um, what they can do is they can really punish a media outlet or they can favor a media outlet. There's all sorts of ways of doing that. And some of these media outlets, specifically the New York Times, believe that they are better than everybody else. And so, they will only deign to interact with the president or people close to the president. And if you cut them off, they get all snarky. So there's a story that's out in the Post and it's up on Rantingly that Anita Dunn, who, by the way, is a diabolical piece of shit. She is Bob Bauer's wife. And she is, when she was in the Obama administration, she had to leave because she was quoted as saying she had found some interview where she said the person she most admired in global politics was Mao Zedong, and Mao Zedong killed his policies killed tens of millions, if not more, of people, and to say that was just preposterous. So even under the Obama administration, she gets drummed out. What happens in the Biden administration? She's like almost as powerful, if not more powerful, than the chief of staff because she has Obama's ear and she's Joe Biden's senior counselor. So anyway, she was there are various bits and pieces to the story, but one slant is that, as it were, that Dunn wanted Karine the idiot, Latrine, to leave because she'd been press secretary for a length of time where she could say, she wasn't forced out. She just it's a
Right.
tiring job and she's going
Put
on.
her on the
So
view.
that put her on a fucking milk carton as far as I'm concerned. I mean, she is she is just preposterous. Uh, but in the various stories, I think it's a political story and something else on going through how all this was working. It recounted a meeting held by Anita Dunn with the top brass of the New York Times, who were summoned down to Washington, D.C. to debate what was going on, with the Times saying we need more access, and Anita Dunn and her people saying, well, you're too negative on Biden. You're talking about his age. You're talking about his ability to lead the country. You're questioning that. You're talking about Hunter Biden. Your coverage is too negative. And, to me, I mean, I just think that's complete bullshit. I hearken to, or I compare it to question time in the House of Commons in England. I mean, I don't think there are probably of the 100 senators, there might be 10 who could do what the Prime Minister of England has to do going to Parliament. I don't know how regularly question time is, but the Prime Minister himself or herself in the UK model has to face down a raucous collection of backbenchers in the House of Commons who could just fire questions, with no um, list of topics and no warning. Questions on any topic, they fire at the prime minister, and the prime minister has to stand up with no help and try to answer those questions. I don't think, as I say, most senators are better on their feet than most congressmen, but I don't think there are 10 who could do that. And Joe Biden certainly can't. I mean, he couldn't even film, he couldn't play Mikey in that cereal commercial. Mikey likes it. I mean, he is just shot, completely shot, these clips that we see. But so what's going on in the coverage is, and in the story about getting rid of latrine, they highlight that there's an embargo list. And basically, what the White House does is they have a series of topics that they want to fan out to the public at large, and they launder those topics through these press organs. So they'll work with, let's say, somebody they like in at the New York Times. Peter Baker is one example under Obama. They'll work with him. They'll say, look, there's something coming up. The president's about to go here. There's some sort of meeting. There's some sort of issue. We need to get a backgrounder together. We need to, we're going to give you access. You'll come and meet with the president. And we want this story to appear, right before the event, right after the event, or whatever. You're the only person who's going to have this story. So it'll be an exclusive for you. It's great for your company. But you can't, it's got to spin in the correct way. That is just rubbish. That is not the way the White House or really any politician should be allowed to interact with the wider world in this day and age, where it's not as if we need the New York Times anymore, right? That is a group of people that is 100% demon rat, 100% economically illiterate. And you have the fucking idiot Krugman, who's a columnist there, won the Nobel Prize in economics, and he can't add 2 + 2. He thinks inflation is transitory. I mean, he's just a moron. So, I think it's been a painful process, in particular for you, but to go through this since 2017 in June, to go through and say, you know what, New York Times be damned, Wall Street Journal be damned, mainstream media be damned. We're just going to talk about things we think are important and put our analysis, our fact-based analysis together, and hope that we resonate with an audience. I think we are. Our audiences are not as big as they used to be because we're being suppressed. But I think the alternative has been revealed is worse than a waste of time. I mean, how badly has the mainstream press gotten Russia collusion, delusion? What Trump's accomplishment versus the way they painted him as a threat? The Biden presidency, the COVID experience, the integrity, in quotes, of the scientific community, the integrity of the educational community, the integrity of the judicial branch, the judicial community, the integrity of politicians in both parties. They've got it completely wrong. And the public understands that. And, the spin-meisters don't want to admit it, but the public, I think, truly is disgusted certainly with Biden. His latest approval ratio is the worst, I think, of any president in history. And you're not, when you take some idiotic, and it has to be, of course, a black steel worker to do a commercial saying, I met with the president and I think he's sharp as a tack. Of course, people who are steel workers are typically the people who set economic and the policy and foreign policy, and they're steeped in the type of issues that people trying to run the country, of course, are steeped in. I mean, it's just a complete surface level bullshit line of argument. And I'm seeing anecdotally lots of stories of Democrats disgusted with Biden, getting red-pilled, thinking more independently. I'm seeing lots of stories about, Trump apparently is going to do rallies in Madison Square Garden and in the South Bronx, and I appreciate that there are risks involved in doing that. Well, not with Trump. See, Trump is pretty clever on how he does security. I think with Biden, everything would go wrong, and I doubt you're going to have infiltrators go into a
Oh,
police
no, of
fireman
course you
rally
are. No, that's what I'm saying. I
and
don't
get
think
away.
Trump's going to screw it up. It's an opportunity for another January 6th. Oh, look, they released the
No,
story at 3:36 p.m. That's not coincidental.
right. But what I'm saying, Jason, is that at least there's more of a. If Trump were doing a general purpose rally, if just anybody could come, I think I'd have the level of concern that you have. But if this is primarily to honor policemen and firefighters who are pissed off at the mayor and governor, um, I think it's going to be a much more friendly crowd. And if somebody tries something, that person is going to be surrounded by a lot of policemen and firemen. So I mean,
Well, we'll see.
and then I think going to the South Bronx, I actually think is also good. I mean, the Democrats, I love the fact that, I don't know if you saw these two stories because I know you've been very busy, but Adam Schiff went to some fundraiser in San Francisco and his luggage got stolen. So
Yeah,
he had to go in casual clothes, and then Nancy Pelosi went to address the Oxford Political Union and hecklers shut her down.
good.
So I mean, I think this Jamie Raskin vision of the world, this Nancy Pelosi vision of the world, and Maggie Haberman, it's just nobody's buying it. And we see with our own eyes inflation raging, crime surging. They're trying to manipulate the crime statistics to suggest that crime is better under Biden than it was under Trump. And one of the things I learned from looking at crime statistics, I think it was under Obama, is that most crimes are actually not reported.
Right.
And I think you know that. I know that. I mean, you get to a place you want to report a crime, and the policeman, the real issue is, for you report it, they have to write a report, and they don't want to fucking do that. So they make it more difficult for you to do it. And also, given what we see in New York City, that the DAs and the state attorney general, all they want to do is prosecute Trump.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to. So why would you go through the bother of pressing charges if you know the DA isn't going to do anything about it, and if you also know that by doing this, the low life person you're trying to put in prison is not going to be in prison and may come attack you again.
Yeah.
So crime is certainly, and it's not just because I'm older. Crime is certainly higher in America, in the West, and it's because of these demon rats. It's because of Obama. It's because of Eric Holder. It's because of Joe Biden, and it's because meritless fart man and Attorney General, and these phrases that we see in the courtroom, whether it's Jack Smith, or the supposed special counsel, and these other people all going after Trump and MAGA. I mean, the inmates are running the asylum, but that's before we get to the college campi, which. I'm glad my kids are out of college at this point, but I would be so fucking furious at not the protesters. I don't like the protesters, but I'd be furious at the administration with their safe zones, their safe spaces, and their promotion of cockamamie bullshit theories that are not grounded in fact. Their reluctance to really advance the frontiers of learning because they want to, suck up to government departments so they can get more grants that they can steal, and wash through their dirty foundations. I mean, this, shame on Columbia, shame on NYU, shame on Yale, shame on Harvard. I sent you, I think, footage of what was going on in Columbia that somebody managed to get. And it's this, what do you call it, Jason? This talk and act. There's some method of galvanizing a crowd where you say
Call and
something.
response.
So they're doing this call and response stuff where a black woman is up saying, now move 1 foot forward. Yes, we will move 1 foot forward. Now move another foot. And it's just, show us you're disrespecting us by trying to get us to leave this. No, bitch, you have no right to do what you have been doing. You have no right to disrupt the campus. And by the way, are you even a Columbia student?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Right. And in New York City, which I believe, I could have this wrong, but I think New York City has, and Manhattan in particular, has one of the largest Jewish populations anywhere in the world. To with the history of what happened in World War II, uh, to now once again be, not just saying vile things like from the river to the sea, but saying that it's all right to murder Jews. I
Are they
mean,
saying that?
yeah, absolutely,
Wow,
absolutely. There are reports of this, and
that's
it's just
unbelievable.
it really is, and it's not cool, and it even is. The thing that is so distressing is that these people of privilege who are doing what they're doing now to disrupt this country and the political discourse, that haven't even bothered to investigate the criminal element that is Hamas. I mean, this Hamas is not, the Revolutionary War soldiers going across Valley Forge with George Washington. I mean, these are people who are stealing aid money, who are keeping their own people down. Some of these Palestinian leaders are multi-billionaires, not because they invented Facebook or Microsoft or whatever, because they're adept at stealing money. And to see these deluded um, kids with their nose rings and their purple hair and their funny clothes, not even be able to explain why they are in fact protesting. That one there is
Yeah, this story
Exhibit
got
A.
picked up widely. You were ahead of it,
Yeah, it's
demanding
just
that
it's
NYU stops all of what NYU is doing. I really don't know. I'm pretty sure. Do you know what NYU is doing? They
I
want
mean,
them to stop it, but they don't even know what they're doing. They're such idiots. And they got the
but
mask. Perfect.
but I mean, think about it. When you and I, or when I got out of college, I think that the statistic was like maybe 1 in 7 students was admitted, 1 in 8, something like that. Now at a place like Columbia, it's like 1 in 20 are admitted. How did that idiot get into Columbia? How did that idiot manage to pass a single course? What are these teachers doing?
Yeah, I
Like,
don't
what
know.
are they? Is everything just pass fail? Are they just in the business of watching OnlyFans and trying to bang the students who
I
are
think so.
paying for
Buy
it?
me an iPhone and get in my
Yeah.
bikini on Instagram. 17, well, the United States. I heard the United States wasn't part of this, but 17, which is their second favorite number after 33, countries released a joint statement demanding Hamas release the hostages who have been there for like, I don't know, half a year, almost certainly dead. Why'd they wait until now? I mean, Charles, this is the most under-discussed aspect of this whole thing. It should have just been from day one. Hang on a second here. Ceasefire. We had a ceasefire. You just took a bunch of
Right.
hostages. You need to release them immediately. That's gone out of the question. It's just like, oh, genocide. No, they started a war and they're getting warred on right now.
Well, again, I keep talking about contrast, and I'm going to keep on doing it until I can't talk. I mean, here you have Donald Trump in the dock for in the Supreme Court considering whether he engaged in criminal activity while president. While at the same time, you have Saint Barack Obama drone striking an American citizen, admittedly an alleged terrorist, but drone striking an American citizen outside this country
In a
with no
restaurant,
trial,
not a
with
military
no
target.
with no trial. No, I mean, I could see doing that if it's an enemy combatant, but not an
Mm-hmm.
American citizen, right? You cannot do that because it's. I mean, you do him today, and you'll do one of these Catholic parents who happens to be, let's say, a missionary in some place. It's just that is really dangerous, and I am actually amazed that Barack Obama's people don't see the danger of what is going on now with trying to prosecute political differences involving former presidents. I mean, they have the I know we're jumping around a bit here, but the reports I've read and the readouts I've seen of the Supreme Court back and forth on whether a president has immunity, the Biden Justice Department had the balls. She was a woman, I guess, so maybe not the balls, but she had a uterus that was powerful enough to make her go ahead and say and lie in the Supreme Court and say that no former president has ever allegedly been involved in illegal activities
So stupid.
while being president. That is just absolutely not a factual statement. Right? I mean,
Well, it's not
that's
even
not.
factual. The debate they were primarily getting to, Charles, was official duties versus unofficial duties, and making these ridiculous hypotheticals, like if Donald Trump walked out into the street and just took a gun and shot a stranger because he felt like it, that he'd have immunity from that. The argument that was being made is no, that would be a high crime that he would be impeached for.
Right.
He'd be removed as president, and then he would be prosecuted. But the issue is to go back like this and look at things like removing documents.
Well, wait a second. Actually, my understanding is that when you are impeached, you are indicted, basically. And then in the Senate, if you are not convicted,
right,
you cannot be prosecuted afterwards for the same crime. You could be prosecuted for something different as a former president, but not for the same crime. And anyway, this is just very dangerous. I mean, the people who have actually been committing crimes right and left, it's a long list. It starts with Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. Before that, George H.W. Bush, thankfully still dead,
right,
and his cohorts. And you go back to Lyndon Johnson if you wanted to. There are other people. But certainly there are credible allegations that Bill Clinton, by obstructing the investigation into Lewinsky, and you know what happened with Lewinsky and other matters, he was obstructing an official government proceeding. They're still doing that with the Clinton Foundation.
Right.
Right. If you consider the tax court matter that Doyle and Moynihan have been advancing since 2017, 7 years. This thing should absolutely, and it should have been, from what I understand, in the public record. It's it shouldn't have taken 7 years to get to where it is now.
Yeah.
The IRS is obstructing that one, and they're not doing it because it's their idea. They're being told, "Thou shalt protect Obama." Just as the National Archivist, we'll talk more about this, in the First Amendment Forum, but just as the National Archivist is trying to protect Obama. So, this is it. As I say, if I go back to my youth in business, I really had to try to stay abreast of what was going on, not in politics, but in business. I had to read the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Financial Times. I read the New York Post in the afternoon for fun, Fortune magazine, Forbes magazine, Newsweek and Time, The Economist. You don't have to read any of that shit anymore. It's all shit. It's just bullshit. It's late. It's wrong. It's expensive. The journalists make it all about themselves. They fail to they're not economically numerate. So that's
not
good.
to dovetail off of journalists making it all about themselves, Charles, but this is a pretty interesting development. William Pope, who is a wrongfully accused and persecuted January 6th defendant, has been doing incredible pro se criminal defense work, and he obtained this new video, which is Ray Epps out in the street canvassing the area, recording video or photographs. I've synchronized it with our video of talking to this John Lee Riches guy who was holding that big sign. And I incorrectly initially thought that a CCTV camera was following Epps. It's actually William Pope who did that. But what's interesting is, there you go. Epps walks right by us. You see the circle is right over us, and that big black Antifa flag is quite visible in this video. It causes me to believe, Charles, particularly now that we have this second angle on the guy with the bike who's over here with the fat guy making the hand signals. It seems like that big sign was some kind of a waypoint to direct Ray Epps, or people who are following Ray Epps or controlling Ray Epps, to direct him around the crowd. Because that guy, John Lee Riches, who was holding the sign, we didn't realize it at the time, but he's quite a well-known social media personality. He's been to jail, which fits the profile of people who then become cooperative, human sources. But here we see the fat guy making his hand signals. He walks with Epps. He just whispers something to Epps, I think, go around that guy, Epps, changes his path, walks right by us. Pretty interesting, right?
Right. Very interesting.
And they were suppressing all of this.
Sure. And why I was saying it might be helpful is that there's Epps is trying to claim that he wasn't in a certain place, or he was in a certain place in a certain time, and I think our tape may demonstrate the opposite, right? Because
I think that's what William Pope is using it for. He's I think included it in, he's putting together a whole defense based on, wait a minute, you're charging me for X, Y, and Z, but here's Ray Epps doing it all over the place. He's
right.
identified a few people who have actually incited the riot, and nothing is happening to them. It's all very curious.
Right. And all this blathering about how the events of January 6th are the worst disturbance in United States history. I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
When did they stop teaching about the Civil War? Right? I mean, it's preposterous.
Yeah.
I mean, did they ignore the BLM riots? Of course
they did, indeed. But Charles, we're just about at the end of our segment here on YouTube and elsewhere. We're going to be continuing right now in the First Amendment Forum. People are going to be able to join us there by sponsoring the show. I encourage everybody to visit odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I don't know if you realize this, Charles, but last night, John Cullen revealed his secret identity. Some people feel like he still looks exactly the same, just without a hat and sunglasses, but he's taken off the hat and sunglasses, and he's going to be appearing without that disguise. We also ran an hour and 45-minute kind of travelogue documentary shot 5 years ago on location in Thailand. And it was really interesting, first of all, just from the standpoint of it being an interesting trip and a cool video. I think you would have liked it because even 2010, 11, 12, this would have been a six-figure, like 100,000 at least, production to go there and have sound people and cameras and everything. So it's interesting to see how technology enables something like that, but it's also a great kind of a time capsule, going back and seeing what we thought about these various things 5 years ago, so people can still see that. Become a sponsor. Join Charles and myself right now in the First Amendment Forum. We'll be right back. Stay with us, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great Saturday on this special Saturday